This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, this is Jennifer, Daughter with Spirit, and my guest, Brenda. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello. So, Brenda had a reading October 17th on a Wednesday night live, and I wanted to kind of ask her some questions and have her talk about the reading and the information that came through. So, Brenda, would you like to tell everyone who came through for you?
It was my son, undoubtedly, that had come through for me.
Awesome. And in my notes, I wrote down that he had mentioned he had a very close relationship to his mother. And then also, he showed up wearing, and usually the clothing is significant. Whatever spirit shows up in, it's either something that you would have a memory of them wearing, a photo, something like they would wear. And he had on a red t-shirt and basketball shorts, but something told me that there was also another significant meaning to the color red.
Absolutely.
The red. Can you share?
Yes, when you started sharing the description of the young man, you also made a comment about walking along the beach about the same time you color red. Right next to my bed, I have a photograph of him wearing a red shirt that just popped. And I tell him goodnight every night. That red shirt is significant because red is his favorite color. And his best friend finished painting his car red in memory too.
Oh, wow. Because I knew just the fact that he showed up in the red shirt, it just kept on like the red is so much more than the red t-shirt that he had on. It just meant, and just for you to even say that his friend painted his car red in memory of him, I was like, oh my gosh, because I don't think you wrote that in the message. So I'm even like, oh my gosh, floored, because I kept thinking there's just something more to the red. I love that. We validated that November was significant, and then the stove. And I was like, what is going on with the stove? Why does he want me to talk about the stove? So can you share about the stove? Because I know a few other people were like, yes, that's my person. And spirit can be for multiple people. We have a spokesperson and then several others that are just like them. But you're the only one that validated out loud that, yes, the stove was significant.
Yes, when he moved from Florida back to Missouri, he lived in this teeny tiny little studio A-frame. And when I went to visit him, it just had the big cook stove, which he's not used to using. And he wanted either a microwave or an air fryer, but there was no space for both. So we went to Walmart. We found this little Black & Decker toaster oven. He always called it a stove. And from that moment on, every time he would cook, he would send me pictures of what he was cooking. And after he passed away, I gave that stove to my mom and dad. And every time my mom and dad use it, they send me pictures of what they're cooking.
Oh my gosh. So I did not understand that it was just the countertop, and he called it the stove, because I was like, what's going on with the stove? Is the stove broken? So that makes a lot of sense.
Just the week prior, because I was always so jealous of this little air fryer toaster oven stove, because all I had at home was a little toaster oven. I bought a brand new toaster oven stove, like the combined, the little air fryer toaster oven. And I had been cooking using it, learning to use it for the last week, and would brag to Tyler, hey, look, I can cook well too now that I have the best little air fryer toaster oven.
I love that. And then as the reading went on, I had talked about how he showed me a slideshow that was photos put together.
Mm-hmm.
Can you also relate to that?
Yeah, I had just found some old VHS tapes, and I had sent them to iMemories and had just had them converted into videos. And it was probably in the last month or so I got the little videos back and downloaded them all and shared them with the entire family and watched them over and over and over.
Wow, that is so special because as the way he showed it to me, it reminded me of when I put the slideshow together for my own mother's for her memorial service, and I was like, this is like black and white, and it looks like the photos are strung together. So I love that you were able to find that and get that together.
Mm-hmm.
He also mentioned he loved Halloween, and then I saw, I was like, is this the movie? Or I've never seen the movie. So that's my disclosure. I've never seen the movie Halloween, but I know who Michael Myers is. And then, so after he said, I loved Halloween when I was a kid, and then he brought up Michael Myers, and I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you told me about that was an inside joke about a hurricane. So what was that all about?
Yes. Shortly after he moved to Florida, he lived with me for a while, and he had just moved in with a young woman that he met, and they were over in Lynn Haven, and Hurricane Michael was coming through. I made them evacuate to my house. I'm like, you guys are in that path. You're going to come to my house. So in Florida, a thing that people do, or they have hurricane parties. So we were having our very first ever in Florida hurricane party. And we decided that it wasn't just Hurricane Michael, it was Hurricane Michael Myers, since it was in October.
I love that. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And then he also had I made some notes from the video. He was telling me like quoting a line like "forget about it." It sounded very like a gangster movie. Was he into gangster movies?
He
Or
was
what
really he really was into gangster movies. Tyler was a man of just a few words, though. So he would always say something like, geez, and really draw it out. Or I'd spend a lot of time trying to draw words out of him, and I'd get like one or two back. So saying something like, forget about it, is 100% something that he would do.
funny. That is
Yeah.
so funny. And then did you understand the purple flower? So he showed me the purple flowers. They were on a long stem. I heard lilac, and I'm not sure if this was an actual lilac flower, but it was like the little purple flowers on a long stem. And that had significant meaning as well.
It did. So when you first mentioned the purple flower, the very last thing he ever gave his girlfriend was a forever flower, a purple forever flower. It was a rose, though. And he gave it to her for Valentine's Day that year. She still has it. It's this deep purple. But then, because this was towards the end, you led into the lilacs. And the only other person I'm really close to that has crossed over is my grandmother. And I thought, oh no. Immediately you said lilacs, and I thought, oh no, those were my grandma's favorite flowers. And getting goosebumps now thinking about this. And after she passed over, we would smell the scent of lilacs quite frequently. And we would say, oh, grandma's around. So my first thought when you led into the lilacs was, oh my gosh, if they're together and the next woman that comes through is a petite pixie cut redheaded lady, I'm gonna lose it.
Was it?
It was.
No.
It was.
I did not realize
Mm-hmm.
that the next reading was also for you.
Mm-hmm.
I had
And by that point, I had gotten so utterly emotional. Like I had lost the ability to like text. You also brought up Mother Hubbard and my grandmother. I had my son, and he had two cousins born at the same time. My grandmother insisted upon babysitting all three between the ages of like newborn and 3 years old.
Oh, I love that. I did not. So I told you before we started recording that I had to rewatch the reading because I didn't recall most of it, but I didn't watch the second one because I didn't know that I was being tested on that. I didn't realize that both spirits that came through were for you. Is there anything else that you can remember about her reading when she came through?
I literally was so emotional. You did describe her as a petite woman, and you said something about her dabbing. My grandmother did not go out of the house without having her jewelry on. And, you said she just kept dabbing, like dabbing at her lips. And I'm like, yeah, I could see my grandma making sure she was put together before she would go out and about. Pixie cut, haircut, Mother Hubbard were a lot that really stuck.
Oh, wow. And it doesn't happen every time, but sometimes during the live readings, even in Evening with Spirit, as well as, of course, private readings, spirits will, they may be associated or have a relationship between them. So it doesn't happen all the time on Wednesday Night Lives, but every once in a while we'll have two in a row that are for the same person or the same group of people, because they'll come through and they'll say, a lot of times, so if your son came through and then here comes grandma, or I've had sometimes the younger person will come first and then the older person will let the younger person come through. But I love that both of them were for you. And when you said, if the next person that comes through is the little petite, lady with the pixie cut, I'm going to lose it. And sure enough, there you go. I love
Mhm.
that. I was
Yes.
not aware that both of the
Yeah.
readings were for you. So this makes it even more special for me. And I am so happy that you were able to get a message, and really, like, you gave me so much validation
Yeah.
that I wanted to share with people what maybe to expect. Not all readings are, you can't validate maybe all of the information, but if you can validate most of it and then the message, I think that's really important. And is there anything different? I know you may have had readings before. Is there anything different that you got out of this reading in particular?
So the interesting thing about this reading is I had gotten really busy at work and I wasn't as often able to catch her 6 o'clock readings. And I always could feel my son being near, seeing all the little signs, talking to him. And over the course of the last months or so, I wasn't seeing as many signs. I was starting to think that maybe he's distancing himself. He doesn't want to interfere with my grief. That's some of the advice I gotten. So I had been talking to him all week leading up to Wednesday. Tyler, I really need you to come through on Wednesday. Tyler, if you can hear me, I'm gonna make it a point. If I'm home on time, I'm gonna tune in. Jennifer, locking you up, and please come through. So I was talking to him aloud. And you started immediately, it's a young man in his 20s, the build, you said built like a football player. My son was 6'2", 220 pounds, brown hair. You mentioned the beach, everything started taking off. And then when you said the red, the red shirt, I knew. The significance is September is not only his birthday, but also the month that he passed. So I was kind of in a dark space in October when your reading came through. And I think he really knew. I'm going to shed some tears. I think he really knew that I was needing that. And as you continued on and on, you mentioned stars, naming a star after him or something.
Oh, yes. I didn't see
I
that part
had
of
forgotten about that.
I just remembered. So I remember saying that there was a star or something, was there a star named after him? And you said that it was what was it exactly?
So I came across NASA was sending some camera or something out to circle Jupiter, and you could put your lost loved one's name almost like in a bottle or on that. And I did that back in 2021 and had forgotten about it. And when I went back to look that back up, the launch date was October of 2024.
Wow. And he was
Yeah.
just validating that, and something that you had forgotten. I even forgot because I was skipping ahead in the video and I didn't write that part down. So I forgot. Wow. It's just like the validation just keeps on coming. And even things that you forget, they're like, hey, remember that? And I love that can happen, that's possible in a reading. And does it make you feel closer to him?
It definitely remind me that he is still near, and he does hear me, and he is paying attention, even though sometimes I get so busy in life that it feels like there's a big distance there. So it was life changing at that point in October.
I am just so happy that I could do that for you. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking about it. I know that some of these things are really private and personal. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, because I think that it has the potential to help people. Even if they decide not to ever get a reading or sit in on a Wednesday Night Live, to maybe slow down and pay attention, because like you said, I think that we get so busy in our lives that we're not seeing or hearing the signs from our loved ones on the other side. And I think that it does have the potential to change lives and help us deal with our grief. So I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.